Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Black Girl Heal Her. Yes, we are on our Heal Her journey where we are getting these words, these empowerment segments that are helping to build us up, to help to shine the light and identify the areas that we need to be healed in. And it is about a journey. This is not a one and done. It is about how do we go through. How do we get through? And how do we come out shining on the other side? So I am super excited about today's guest. And I can't wait to introduce her to you all. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her on up to the stage. Hey, Danielle. Hey, beautiful.
Hey, I'm so happy
Listen,
to be here.
we are super excited because Danielle and I met at a healing retreat of all places in Illinois. And we have been Facebook friends for since then. And this is just our time to actually sit down and play catch up. So y'all just tune in and listen in and just get a chance to know a little bit more about one another. So, Danielle, please introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. So grateful and thankful to be here. My name is Danielle Sheree Brown, and I am all things. Like, as all and most of Black women
Yes,
are. Like, so
yes,
it's like,
yes.
where do I start, right? So, I'm here today just as a human being, just as an
Yes.
entrepreneur and a leader and a mother and a Black woman on my healing journey, right? Today
Yes.
I'm going to take this professional hat off, even though you may see my little non-for-profit banner in the back and all that, but I just want to really take the hat off and just be human
Yes.
today. And but I do
Mm,
have a business and I do have
yes.
kids and I do have all these responsibilities. But
Hmm.
today I just want to be me and whatever that means and on my healing journey. So I'm here to be
Amen.
vulnerable and open and share my story and just
Yes.
connect.
I love that because oftentimes, and it sounds really, really weird, but we forget to be human. We get so caught up in our titles and we have to walk around and we carry our greatness. Boy, oh boy, we carry our greatness. We carry those businesses, we carry our families, we carry everything that we have achieved and succeeded in, and it's heavy. And we forget that we are human behind that. And so we just continue and we walk around and we walk around and we carry these great titles and these great accolades, but then sometimes things happen. Sometimes things happen and it reminds us that we are human,
Mm-hmm.
whether we suffer the loss of a loved one, and that grief will tap you on your shoulder and be like, hey, boo.
Baby.
And be like, hey, boo. And it reminds you that you are human. And
Mm-hmm.
all of the great accolades that you receive, you soaring up the career ladder, and then they just so happen to call you in the office. And they just so happen to have a pink slip available to you. Now you like, look, I'd be available for any other color slip but pink.
This
But they pulled out the pink one. Out of all the colors in the Crayola box, they
right.
picked out the pink one. And that means that your greatness in that place has concluded, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there are often things in life that will show us that we are human. And I think it would be nice to have that reminder without the trauma,
That part.
right? Without all the drama, without all of the circumstances. I think if we just remind ourselves. So I loved how you started us off in just reminding us that we are human. So to all the human beings out there, y'all settle in because we all gonna be human together, right? We are gonna be
Together.
human together.
Yes.
Yes. I
Definitely.
love that. But you do have multiple hats that you wear, as do my viewers. So I always tell my guests when they come on and they're like, oh, I do a little bit of everything. We understand. We understand. My people totally understand because they too do a lot of things, whether they're mothers, they be mothers and students and employees and CEOs all at the same daggone time. So
Yes.
it is nice that we can show up to a place journeys, and support one another as we are on our heal her journey. So I thank you for being here. And I do want to go ahead and get us started because I want people to really and truly understand where you are currently, but until we can really see where you are currently, we've got to be able to identify where you've come from.
Yeah.
So tell us, and you're going to share with us about the mental, where we're talking today about the mental heal her. So we're going to get into the mental aspect of life. So get us started and tell us a little bit about your heal her journey.
So my heal her journey, I want to say, just as a Black woman, has started
Mm-hmm.
since probably I was a small girl. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but more recently, I will go back to 2020 to tap into how I got here and how you get through and healing in its entirety. 2020, I started my business in 2007, one of
Okay.
them, DSB Solutions, where I do business and tax services.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
Yes, and I started a nonprofit in 2015. I was a mom at 21. I got married at 30. Just trying to summarize all these things that was going in my
Mm-hmm.
life. So, in perspective,
Yes.
I was doing okay. Um, about 2011, I was introduced to adverse childhood experiences. I was a program manager for a violence prevention program, and I was introduced to what that was. And so it was at that point in 2011 that I realized how violent and traumatic my childhood was. Now,
Mm.
by this time, I was already married. I had this business. I was on my way to start the non for profit in 4 years after that, but I hadn't really realized
Wow.
how impactful the trauma in my childhood was for me.
Wow.
And so I became a program manager, and I did it for 3 years, and the numbers increased, and I got the opportunity to hear about the shared experiences of many other parents in this community. Older parents, young parents, teen parents. It was just a very diverse crowd as far as age is concerned and gender. And so I began this journey. I had an ACEs score. If you've ever taken the ACEs test, the highest score is 10. I had an 8 out of 10. I had no idea about violence and violence prevention or any of this, right? Like how these things that happened to me as a child was really impacting my life as an adult. Like it
Mm.
was a foreign thought to me until 2011. So I thought that I had addressed my childhood issues. I thought that I had forgiven everyone. I thought that I had healed
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm-hmm.
everything I had been through as a child. But then we get to July 20th, 2020. I have a mental break.
Wow.
Now, mind you, I got introduced to this in 2011, so 9 year difference, right? And I've had
Mm-hmm.
all these various conversations with family members and parents, and started my restoration process and all of these things. And then 2020, my mind just goes like I'm literally living in psychosis for months,
Wow.
in and
Wow.
out. Traumatic things are happening around me because even though I was aware of these things that was happening and these dysfunctions and these traumas, I was still in these environments
Mm.
that were very dysfunctional for me and very unhealthy. I was dealing with grief from 4 family members during that time that were pillars to me. An aunt and an uncle, another uncle, and a cousin. And those were my family members that gave me, as I look back, experiencing this violent childhood, those were the people that I looked upon to give me some type of solace and stability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so then they passed. My daughter was going away to college. My husband, it was an unhealthy marriage. And so it was just all these things that I was dealing with. And my mind just, like a computer, it was just too much one day.
Wow.
Um, it was the scariest time of my life. Like I would not wish that on anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful to God that I learned and I had some type of training prior to this because I
Mm.
started my nonprofit in 2015, where I help people to address and overcome adverse childhood experiences. Because remember, 2011, I learned about adverse
You got
childhood
all smart or
experiences,
educated and such.
trauma,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like, oh, I've healed. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna start this non for profit and help everybody else,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when 2020 came, thank God for that training and what I had learned um, during that time, during those short 5 years of training that I took to become a better president in this organization and learn really what I was doing and how I could be a better asset to the community and those I serve. I knew what I needed to do for myself. I
Mm.
knew I needed to get therapy, right? I didn't know what was going on with me. I started drinking, and I'm not a drinker. My mind was like playing against itself, right? And
Wow.
so the way that I can describe it is I don't like scary movies. And the
Hmm.
best
Me
way I can
either.
describe it is a horror movie in my head.
Wow.
I literally couldn't hold conversations. I could not, I was writing on walls. I was cutting up
Mm.
things. I was totally out of body.
Wow.
And thank God for therapy. Thank God for healing. When I came back to myself,
Hmm.
after being homeless,
Wow.
because I will say that the violence in my head caused me to respond to people in a violent way. And
Mm.
so people couldn't deal with me. And it took for me to become a certified mental health first aider to really understand that
Hmm.
and to really understand the trauma and epigenetics and all of these things that affect Black people. And
Mm.
even in that, like you can't sell the crazy slave. So
Yeah.
they didn't know
Yeah.
how to deal with me, right?
Hmm.
It was kind
Mm.
of like just abandon her, reject
Yeah.
her because we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I was in a psych ward and got mistreated, and so
Mm.
I just want to say God is good. And
Yeah.
so when I came back, my motor operandus was, God, how do I not have that again?
Hmm.
Right? I was angry at God because I pray, I fast, God, why you let this
Hmm.
happen to me? Because I really did some things that I'm still embarrassed of, ashamed of, right? It left me with PTSD where I have these blackouts and you know things happen to me in the process of this. And so
Yeah.
I was just like, God, what do you want me to do with all of this? And what I keep hearing is it was my trauma. It was the fact that I'm an only child. I experienced a lot of violence in my house, and everything was a secret.
Mm.
And I had to
Wow.
process a lot.
Yeah.
And the brain is a computer.
Wow.
And so I'm totally the person now. I have no secrets. If I'm having a bad day, I do this thing on TikTok where I call it the struggling entrepreneur because I needed some type of outlet to share my story. Um,
Yeah.
and I understand that entrepreneurs and business owners and people that are doing all these things, we're dealing with so many
Yes.
different things.
Yes.
People have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you always hear about the fluffy good stuff.
Yes, all the picture worthy stuff. You see all the highlight reels, right? But nobody ever talks about the nights when you're up crying or you're sleep deprived or you down to your last $5. Like people don't see those moments.
Those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those things. And I think sometimes we don't understand how we have been cultivated.
Yeah.
The environments in which we were cultivated has an
Mm-hmm.
impact on how well we do with our businesses and
Yeah.
how impactful we are with them. You're right that we don't cause harm and evoke pain on other people because we have not healed from our own trauma. And so my main thing after all this is just like, God, what do I do with this?
Mm-hmm.
What do you
Mm-hmm.
want me to tell now that you brought
Yeah.
me back? Because one thing I keep hearing is that the magnitude of psychosis I was, and at the months I had it, and no prior mental illness diagnosis outside of normal anxiety and depression. I think all black people
Mhm.
have
Mhm. Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
genetically. But
Yeah.
outside of that, there was nothing, right? And
Yeah.
so just one day, this happened, and
Wow.
so I've learned to have boundaries.
Mhm.
I've learned to take naps
Yes, honey.
without guilt.
Now to my friend. Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
and so just taking care of me in a deep way. I realized that a lot of us have suffered violence and we don't recognize it, right? And so, how
Mm.
can you heal if you don't know you need to be healed,
Yeah, you don't address it. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I often think about the woman with the issue of blood because I'm spiritual and I love God, and so it's always on my
Yes.
lips. And so, she had to get to Jesus because she knows she had an issue.
Yeah.
She didn't recognize she had an issue, and so I want it to be okay to be a human.
Yeah.
I want us to all understand that we've been through some things, and it doesn't make you a bad person or
Absolutely.
non-deserving or unworthy or right, all that
Yeah,
crazy
absolutely.
stuff that for some reason a lot of people I talk to, they think because you have these platforms or you're doing these things that there's a level of perfection within you or something
Yeah.
like that, and I just want to obliviate that.
Yes. Yes.
I
Yeah.
think
Blow that up. Get rid of that notion, because it's that notion that gets us into that spirit of perfectionism, right? And we are not to be perfect. God didn't design us to be
no.
perfect, because if, and I say this a lot, if we are perfect, then we don't need God, right? What would we need a divine and sovereign God for if we are perfect, if we think the right way, we say the right things, we move the right way, like we do everything in a perfect manner? Why would we ever need God? So God's intent when he designed us is to create us in his image.
Yes.
So that means that we have the tendencies, right? We have the tendencies. I
Yes.
call them like the perfection tendencies, but he doesn't require us to be
Yes.
perfect. We can do things well, we can do things great, we can achieve, can succeed, but it does not mean that every moment of our lives are going to be, peaches and cream, or sunshine and roses. Like every day is not going to be like that. So I thank you for sharing a part of your testimony, and some questions, some things did rise up in my spirit. The first thing is, um, they often say they often say that we go through things in life, not because of us, not because,
Mm-hmm.
like we needed to go through it, but we often go through it in order to be able to fully understand. So now you're walking in the space of this mental health professional, this mental health advocate, but then you yourself. So like I said, outside of the normal things, right? Because I think we encounter depression and anxiety so much that it becomes a part of our normal day-to-day living. So we learn how to deal with it. But
Mm-hmm.
outside of that, it's like, no, you ended up having to have this psychotic break where, you go into this moment, and your moment lasted for months,
It was horrible.
where you experienced, being displaced from your home, and now being in an institution. And
Mm-hmm.
again, as you told the story, you were already thriving in your career, in your business. So you have already established yourself as this professional, this working wife, mother,
Yeah.
believer, all of this stuff. And then boom, boom. Now, you did mention July 2020. Now,
Yes.
that was when we were right in the thrust of the pandemic, right? Do you think that that may have had some impact on this psychotic break that you were going through?
Um, I am not sure. To be perfectly honest, I
Mhm.
never thought of that. I would say that I think that I handled the pandemic pretty well
Mhm.
emotionally. I had just got new furniture. My daughter had. I was making the best out of that
Mhm.
situation.
Mhm.
Um, but knowing what I know and never having gone through that before,
Yeah.
I would say it definitely did. Just
Right.
as it has an impact on the kids going back to school and people
Yeah.
socializing in general, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And even in this world today, we're still
Trying to
living
deal.
those
Yeah.
effects, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
when you mentioned that, it's like, wow, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Because again, at the height of the pandemic, so
yeah,
this is where
wow.
this was in the beginning of it, because I want to
It
say
started
that
about
it
March or
started
April or so.
exactly like we were hearing stories towards the end of February, and then March is when the shift started to happen. April was when it really started to kind of rev up, and we were seeing it, we were hearing it. And one of the things that that
Right,
as a nurse that I've seen as an effect is that it was this fear of the unknown. So we really didn't know what this was that we were dealing with, and so we didn't know what to do. So it's one thing if it's like the flu. Well, we know how to take
right,
care of that, right? Because we've seen it before, and even with like diabetes or like we mentioned depression, it's like, oh well, we know how to handle that because we've seen it before. But now we have this situation, and part of the distress that many were facing, not only the fact that they were telling us that we had to ostracize, that we had to isolate, we had to
right.
seclude ourselves, we couldn't be around our loved ones, we couldn't hug, we couldn't kiss, we couldn't touch the way we would normally do. So now you've got people ostracized, and they're isolated. But another thing that was taking place was the fear of the unknown.
Yeah,
And one of the things that I'm trying my best to get people to understand is that COVID times was an episodic era of PTSD. So if you've never experienced PTSD
what's
before
your name?
then,
Yep.
well, welcome to 2020, and
Welcome.
boom, we
Yeah,
all we
we
all
are.
now can get on the platform and talk about our PTSD
Yeah,
because it did do something. And if the only thing it did to you was create this fear of the unknown, that in itself was enough to get people in this different psychological space than ever before.
yeah. And now that you say that, I know that I had a break because, like I said, the brain is like a computer. So that was
Mhm.
just COVID was another thing. My brain
It was the
was
last straw.
processing, right?
Yeah.
Even if it was consciously or subconsciously,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
still like in the background, right?
Yeah.
And then my
Yeah.
daughter had a birthday through this. My oldest didn't get to graduate. Like, so
Yeah.
now that
Yeah.
you're saying all this,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
right, on top of the grief, on top of the
Exactly.
unhealthy
Because we
marriage
saw
that I'm
death.
stuck in every day with.
Right. So right, exactly. That's why a lot of people were going through this stressor because
Yes.
now they home with somebody they ain't accustomed to be like, dude, I barely liked you when you was leaving out the house. And now
Every day.
you ain't going out. Oh,
We
bump
can't
that.
go.
Bump that. Put the plastic bag on, but you got to get out of here, right? But these are the things that were going through all of our minds, right?
Yes,
So we're now in this new realm, and we don't know what's going to happen. And we're watching the news. Every time you turn the news on, it was death, death,
yes, it
death,
was.
death, death. And that's not normal.
It's not.
It is not normal being around or being exposed to constant death. I remember one time in my nursing career, and this was actually when I was in school, and we did our clinical rotation, and I was at um, a what do you call them? I want to call the name of the hospital, but it was an
I'm
end
like
of life facility.
symposium.
It was like an end of life facility,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So
End of life
they would
facility. Okay.
do it. They would do like an announcement on the PA system inside the unit when room 202 has demised, and like every day you would go in and there'd be like four or five announcements. And I remember one time I was there on my birthday, So here it is. I'm all rejoicing and celebrating life. And I'm now in this environment where I am surrounded by death. And I was like, wait, this don't feel right. I didn't like it, and it was heavy on my mental well-being, because it's not normal for us to be exposed to that much death. So I think, again, like, we joke about it, but it literally could have been that last straw. Like, now here we are talking about the unknown. We're in quarantine. We don't know how long this is going to last. We're trying to maintain our health. We're trying to drink our water. We're trying to mind our business. We're trying to make sure our family is taken care of.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you know what? You got some other issues
Yep.
that you have not officially dealt with. And all of that stuff starts to rise up. And then you have this psychotic break.
Yes.
But thank God that you are a woman of God, that you are a believer of God, and you were able to see your way through. But I'm certain the journey was not easy.
It was not easy, and it is still not
Mm-hmm.
easy.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started to come back to myself, and what I say is where my brain began to think again.
Mm-hmm.
I could not watch regular programming on TV. I could only watch cartoons.
Mm.
Um, my word recall is still coming back.
Wow.
Um,
Now, do you have a rationale to explain why you could not watch regular TV? Why it was just the cartoons?
after my I guess the best way for me to describe it is something surging, like the brain like a computer, and so like your computer surging out, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
brain surging out, and so it was like as it started to spark back, it was only so much I could handle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then still today, sometimes it's just like, okay, God, like I don't want to put too much on my
Yeah.
brain,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
One thing I can say that it may sound weird to some, but I'm becoming thankful for my break. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because it has taught me what's really important.
Yeah.
It has taught me that God is really in control.
Mm-hmm.
It has given me a message of being human is okay. Having emotion
Yes.
is okay.
Yes.
Feeling overwhelmed is normal when you're doing things and you're taking
Yeah.
great feats. It's okay to tap out. It's
Yeah.
okay to steal away. It's okay to take a
Yes.
nap. It's okay
Yes.
to say no. It's okay
Mm-hmm.
to have your needs fulfilled. It's
Yes, honey.
okay, right?
Yes.
It's okay. And God loves us just the way we are.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
so I'm just grateful for that. I know that God brought me back with a message to help people. Like, it's really not that serious, and it's okay to be human. I actually
Mm-hmm.
just did a TikTok today where I talked about complaining, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm the person that's like, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. Like, right? And people are like, oh, I'm not going to complain. And so I want us to eradicate the fact about complaining. Sharing your life experience and what you're going
Mm-hmm.
through is not complaining.
Yeah. And it's not gossiping either. I think sometimes people think like, oh, I don't want to be like the one who's running telling it. Baby, I'm not gossiping. I'm just telling facts. I'm giving you a factual account, based off of my peer review of what's going on. So the story is the story.
The
If
story
this
is
is
the story.
happening, it's
It's
what's
happening.
happening,
It's a
and it's
real
through my
thing.
exactly, and it's through
It's
your
a real
lens.
thing.
Through
And
your
so,
lens.
yeah, and like we were saying earlier, I think this was before we got on camera, but like if you're perfect, if you everything is right in your life, if you're all of
Mhm.
these things, where is space for God,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And we must deal with the things that we have experienced, right? We don't want to get caught up in this cycle of being stressed out and overwhelmed and like,
Yeah,
I want to enjoy my life.
exactly.
That's one thing that I learned. I realized that I was so hustle and move forward before my break that I didn't take the time really to enjoy it. I
Mhm.
did vacations, I did things with my kids, right? But it was more of a formality type of thing.
Yes,
And me being
yes.
present in the moment
Yeah,
and really being grateful to God and really
right.
basking in the moment. I realized that I took my my mind for granted.
Mm, yeah.
I took my mind for
Mm.
granted.
As we often do. As
No
we
one could have
often
ever
do.
told me that would have happened to me. I'm
Yeah,
a very mentally strong person, right? And no one could have ever told me that that happened.
yeah.
And so then for me, because I'm a life learner, and so
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this?
Mm-hmm.
What am I supposed to gain from this? And I just realized that I had a lot of unresolved trauma, even though I had forgiven, and even though my
Yeah.
behaviors may have changed, my thoughts were still the same. And
Mm.
I still continue to attract relationships that were abusive to me because of what
Mm-hmm.
I had experienced, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this may sound crazy, but abuse can be addictive.
It can.
You
It
can get
can.
caught up in the cycle
Mm-hmm.
of the being hypervigilant,
Yeah.
being in trauma.
Argumentative,
Yeah,
because you get that rush, like when you're arguing, when you're fighting with
yeah,
someone, there is this rush, this surge of energy. And yeah, I do agree with you in the fact that it can be addictive,
yeah. It
especially if
definitely
you learn it from earlier in your childhood,
your
and then they
development.
say shh, don't talk about it. So you never address the issues, you just keep moving on. So then now you grow up as an adult and you think that is life. And if you don't have that turmoil, if you don't have that drama, if you don't have that high impact, you feel like you're not
Something's
in the right place, like
wrong.
something is wrong. Yeah,
You
yeah,
literally feel like that. And so
yeah,
I feel like that's my mission to because I have my level of compassion and empathy during this process has grown to a level that I think I understand why people do drugs now and
yeah,
why people have
yeah.
all these issues. And I'm just grateful to God to help people work through the trauma. Like, and it's really,
Mhm.
it's just humanity. When we
Yeah,
think about it, it's just the things that people experience that cause these moments in time that cause
yeah,
us to react a particular way. And we're
right.
so busy, especially I think especially as Black people, being quiet, moving on, being strong, wearing
Mm-hmm,
these capes, all
mm-hmm.
of this, and then until one day it just
Yep, yep, exactly like that.
because that's what it did to me,
Yeah. Wow.
you know.
Wow. There's so much there. Like there's so many thoughts that are going through my mind. Again, one of the things, like I said, like we go through things not for ourselves all the time, but for other people. So with you being in this realm, in this space of mental health, it's almost like God had to really take you there because he knew he could trust you. He knew that he could trust you to one, come out of it, right? That you would stay
Yeah,
grounded and holding on to him as you moved your way through it. But you had to have those experiences so that it opened up a new level of understanding for you, where now you say you can understand, people who have addictive behaviors, whether it's to the abuse, whether it's to drugs, to alcohol, to whatever. You
yeah,
just have this new level of understanding. So now what it does is it opens the door up of the people that you are now in charge of, the people that
yeah,
you are able to help. And because you're not being like everybody else and only celebrating the highs and only putting the camera on when you got the makeup on and everything is perfect in the environment, God says that now I can trust you.
yeah,
I can trust you to tell your story because it's the telling of your story that's going to help to heal other people.
yes,
So I'm so grateful that you are here and you are like an open book. You are willing to share that this is your journey. This is
yeah.
what you've gone through. And we don't want to get to that place,
No, you
right?
don't.
We don't want to keep going busy, 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 be and have to go through that step. Listen, I can learn it from your experience.
Thank
I
you.
can learn it. I
That's
don't have to
all
go through
I
it. I got the message, Lord. Thank you.
That's all I want because
Yeah.
again, I do not watch scary movies. It was
Yeah.
like a horror movie in my
Wow.
head,
My
and
God.
I don't wish that on anyone. Let me say this: I was arrested. I ain't never been in jail in my life.
Wow.
You understand that?
Wow.
I got an opportunity to see what people endure in jail. After I
Wow.
called and asked for medical help because I have PTSD.
Wow.
So,
Jesus. So you called 911
mm-hmm,
for help and
yeah,
ended up getting arrested
yes,
because they don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to handle people in psychotic breaks. They
they
don't
don't.
know how to handle people who are going through psychosis behavior.
They
And
don't.
I think that's a training that, a matter of fact, somebody had posted up something about nurses
Mm-hmm.
becoming police officers, like, or the police officers having a nurse to go out with them. And at first I was like, what are we doing in this world? But now that we're having this conversation, I'm like, wait a second, that wouldn't be such a bad idea. So you can have the police officers as the brawn, but then you can have the nurse tag team with them as the compassion to say, wait a second, this person is having a mental health breakdown. They're in a crisis and they need treatment. They need protection.
Yeah.
They don't need to be, treated like as if they are the perpetrator. They are the victim.
It
So
made me
now I'm
wonder
seeing it.
how many black women are incarcerated right
Mm,
now that need mental. This is what this
mhm,
journey opened my
mhm.
eyes to different areas
Yes.
that I believe I was closed off to before.
Yes.
How many of us are
Mhm.
in jail
Mhm.
and we need mental health services? And just
Mhm.
really for me, I think if someone had just asked me what happened to me
Mhm.
and let me talk,
Yeah.
someone would have showed me some love, some
Mhm.
compassion, and created a safe, brave space for me,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
wouldn't have lingered for so long.
My God.
And
I
I know
felt all of
for
that.
a
My
fact.
God. Mm.
And I went to family, I went to friends, I went to those that are in ministry, all of these things. And
Wow.
I'm not mad about it. I'm just grateful that now I'm a certified mental health first aider. So like I can say, hey, this person, right?
Just maybe this might be going on. And that's where I was at, like you can understand.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we need people on the front line who understand. So now I get the whole nurse police combo, but it's because we need people on the front line. So, I'm thankful for your psychotic break as well. You said you were grateful and thankful for it.
Yeah.
We as a people are
Yeah.
thankful because now you're on the other side and you get to talk us through. You get to be able to be the one who can identify and say, well, whoa, 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 wait. And
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I wonder how many men and women are incarcerated. And it's because no one took the time to look at their mental health.
No.
And I believe the mental health that you would get once you're in the system is a whole lot different than what you would get if you were not.
Yeah, because they
So
treat you according to how you are
yeah,
diagnosed, and
yeah,
not according to being a human being,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so that it just it's quite disturbing. Even the fact, I mean, I could go on into the fact how even when you do go to the psych ward, right, to get rest and to get help, every
Mhm.
group meeting, I have to tell you what my diagnosis is. And for me, when I was in the
Mm,
psych ward, I was like, I don't have one. They
mm,
hadn't even given me one, right?
right.
But kept asking me for,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And,
Wow.
and just to see, because I'm trauma informed, even though I'm going through this, right? I'm still me, but I'm
Yeah,
dipping in and out of who
yeah,
I am. And even just the group setup, and are they really helping?
yeah. Wow. That is so important for us to just have that level of understanding. And you did give us some coping strategies, and I hope everyone caught that. She said it's okay to say no. And the reason why I honed in when you said cartoons, I honed into it, not because I just like cartoons, but I use that as my coping mechanism. So you see how when you go through something, you experience something, it elevates you.
Yes, it
So
does.
now when you hear certain things, when you see certain thing, it makes you now be able to step in and you can identify it sooner. So
Yeah.
one of my coping mechanisms, and I recognize that I do this when I start feeling overwhelmed, when I start feeling like I'm about to burn out, when I start feeling depression rising up, the
Mhm.
first thing I do is to go to cartoons, because cartoons, the colors, you know how like you did for the babies, you put the TV on so
Yes.
they can see the colors and the sounds and it was soothing. I do that as an adult.
Yes.
So I go to sleep to cartoons
I've
every
learned it.
night.
Yes.
Every night. I got the
Yeah.
colors going. Sometimes the sound is on, sometimes it's not. But it is something to help me to unwind
Yes.
from my stressful day. And even if we think the day was good,
Yes.
you never know what you might have picked up, like you said, what you've seen. You know, there was a time in my life where I used to love watch. I was binge watching Scandal, honey. And then the Lord had to tap me on the shoulder one day and he was like, enough. And I was like, but I still got all these
No.
enough,
Enough. Yeah.
because there's only but so much murder and despair and
Yes.
and and destruction. Is only so much the brain can hold,
Yeah.
but we're filling up our cup with it because we're watching all of the stuff on TV. We were watching the news with all of the death tolls, and
Yes.
it was almost like the New Year's Eve countdown. Like we were watching it, we were tuning in. Oh, how much time we got left? How many people died? Like it was too much for our brains. Our brains can
Process.
only hold but so much. So then we do end up with these psychotic breaks. And even if we don't have a psychotic break, we're probably just a thought process away,
One wrong move. One
right?
wrong. One yes to something you should say no to.
Listen, listen,
Right?
don't be taking on all that stuff at work because you're trying to be the super employee and mess around and have a mental break.
Because I'm gonna say one thing. None of that mattered when I couldn't think right.
Right.
None of that mattered. And even I had to learn to trust myself again.
Mm.
It's something when you cannot trust your own thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so being in PTSD with that, the triggers that take place now for me, the delayed triggers,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's still a process.
Wow.
It's still a process. And there are times, I just had a situation last week that literally like broke me down,
Wow.
right? And had me in bed for days. And right? But I had to say, God, like, first of all, I had to allow myself to be human and know I am battling
Mm-hmm.
PTSD,
Yeah.
right? I'm battling it. And give myself space and grace for that,
Amen. Amen.
right? And know that I serve a God that heals, know
Yes.
that I serve a God that delivers, and get the lesson. Whatever I'm supposed to get out of this, however I'm supposed to help out of this. And I was
Mhm.
joking with a friend the other day. I said, well, Jesus overcame the grave. I guess I got to overcome PTSD,
Yes, pretty much. Pretty
right?
much. Now, I do have two questions for you. I have two questions for you.
Sure.
One, do you regret tapping in 2011? So when you had this epiphany, you had this newfound knowledge, and now it like awakened the
Mm-mm.
sleeping bear. So do you regret going into that place and learning and now being able to identify that you did indeed experience a significant level of trauma in your life?
Yes. No,
Okay.
I don't regret it at all. And
Mhm.
I'm so happy you asked me that question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in telling my story in intimate spaces, and what I mean by that is normally like one-on-one or small groups,
Mhm.
right? I realized how my ability to open up helps other people to open
Mhm.
up.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people don't want to address what they've been
Nope.
through.
They won't even
And
identify
I
it.
just want to
Mm-hmm.
proclaim this. It is the most
Yes.
beautiful thing
Wow. Mm.
you can do. It is the most life changing thing you can do. It is the
Amen.
most difficult thing you
Yes.
may do. But when I tell you it is so worth it, and I'm not at the end yet. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
healing. I think that
Mm-hmm.
when you make space, when you address
Mm-hmm.
certain aspects of trauma in your life, you make space to access the other levels of trauma in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
friend tell me that her therapist told her when you heal from one thing, you make space to heal from something else, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we don't realize how we I think we even the word trauma, I've been trying to ask for a different word for it. Like, oh, what's a different word? And so we don't understand how just a simple loss of a job can be
Mm-hmm.
very traumatic
Yes. Yes.
to you.
And we don't heal from that. We just go on to the next job.
Just get another job, right? Or when you have a breakup, or
Yep.
just
Yep.
a loss.
A disappointment.
It's grief in the process,
Yeah.
regardless if it's a
Yeah.
person, a small
Yeah.
thing, or whatever. Anytime you lose,
Yep.
there's grief. And we've
Yes.
taught ourselves, I think, especially in the Black community, to just ignore it and move on, and
Mm-hmm.
it's no big deal.
Keep
But we
on
have to
keeping
even,
on. Yeah.
we had to then. We don't have
Yeah.
to now.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that. Now, the second question that I want to ask before I let you go is, are you fearful? Are you fearful? Do you live your day to day life in fear that another psychotic break might be on the horizon?
I'm not fearful and I'm not cautious, but I'm
Mm,
mindful
God, yes.
about what I put on my plate now.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
mindful, more mindful about who I let in my circle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more mindful as to how people are reciprocating love to me and care
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more mindful about my own personal boundaries.
Yes, Lord.
And as long as I'm not causing anyone any hurt or any harm, Danielle
Yes.
is going to do what Danielle feels good about, pleases
Yes.
God, and I don't care about anyone else.
Wow.
I'm
Mm,
no longer living for nobody but me and God. My kids
yes.
are included.
Yeah.
I'm not living for them either. They gonna live their own
Exactly.
lives.
Yes. That's right.
You
That's
know, so
right.
and even through that, my mom guilt, right?
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
to let that go too, right?
Amen.
Because I got
Amen.
some single mom stuff going.
Yeah,
So
child, you ain't the only one, right? But I love that because you can't be this grandmother, this great mom and great worker and great business owner and CEO and all of that unless you address your stuff. And it's like as you go through one layer, right? So it's like you're digging a hole, right? So you gotta heal that one layer, but once you heal that one layer, you gotta go to the next and to the next and to the next until you really get to the bottom of it and say,
Lord,
oh, that's why this had occurred. But
yeah,
now that you're healed on those different levels, so you start small and you identify, okay, so and so said this to me today and it bothered me.
yep,
That's the first healing. And then now you have to ask yourself, well, why did what they say
bother,
bothered you? So
yep,
then you go into another layer. And then when you start addressing and you say, "Oh, that's because this happened in my child." Now you get to the root of it. And when you can nip something off at the root, that is when
yes,
true
God,
healing takes place.
yes,
So it is a journey. And I thank you. Oh my God, I thank you so much for sharing that because when we talk about mental health and wellness, people they think it's going to take something away from who they are. No, the world still sees you, Danielle
yes,
Sheree Brown. You are
thank you,
still glowing. You are still beautiful. You are still intelligent. You're still on high. Your business does great thing. Your businesses do
yes,
great thing. Like you are still excellent in all of your glory, but you are also human.
I just want everyone to know we are human.
We are human.
And it's
We
like,
are human.
even and because I love the word of God, and so Jesus even cried.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
even said, God, if you could remove this cup.
Yes, yes, yes. He had
So
he was
who
burned out. It was burnt out. Yes.
he's still the way.
Yes.
Oh, he said he would sleep on the boat where
Come
everybody
on, come on. Like, why y'all
said,
bothering
come
me
on.
again?
Hashtag lead like Jesus. I'm just saying. But
Yes,
like,
yes,
and
yes,
I don't want to be that leader that perpetuates my trauma onto my staff, my
yes.
employees, my team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
we've all experienced them horrible leaders,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Either up and close and personal or on the news, whatever.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Right? So we've all
Exactly,
experienced that, right? And
exactly.
I am agreeing with God that there's a
Yes.
shift taking
Amen.
place.
Amen. Amen.
And the new leaders are gonna be healed.
Come on, somebody. Come on now. That's what we need. And guess what? We are gearing up. We are preparing to be our own leaders in our own right. And we want to be leaders of our household and leaders in our industry. And
Yes,
that's going to require us to heal. It's
yes,
not to say you got to be better before you get started, but it does say you need to recognize, you got to identify, you got to set those boundaries, and you've got to get yourself in a place and in a position where you are mindful of the areas of your life that need to heal. And that does include our minds.
yes.
So that was such a great conversation. You guys make certain you follow Danielle, get on her TikTok, the struggling entrepreneur, get those stories, get those messages. Danielle, do you got anything that you're working on, anything that you want to share with the people before we sign off?
I'm working on a lot. Not anything really to share yet.
Okay.
But I will say this, like, for me, my pivotal moment in business, I realized that I had to be okay before I go out and market to the masses. And so I
Mm-hmm.
just want to send that message to people.
Yeah.
When you be mindful when you're writing books, be mindful when you're sending messages, just be mindful where you
Mm-hmm.
are in your inner place.
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure that we are speaking life to everything.
Amen.
And so I realized that when I felt death on the inside of me, I needed to shut down and let
Mm-hmm.
God heal me and restore me and all of those things. So I
Yes.
would not harm his people. And
Mm. My God, if only more people would be mindful, right? To know your limits. And I know we all have a message and a purpose and a plan and everything, but it is okay to take a respite, right?
yes,
To get some of the, get some of the packing in, let the bandage, get good and steady, and then you can go out. But you can't be out there trying to heal
yes.
people and you got this gaping hole and you're bleeding all over other people. You're toxic, infectious. So I am so
That
grateful
part. That part.
that you are on your heal her journey. I'm so glad that you are now connected to us and we get to support you. You get to support us. We get to
Yes.
love on you. You get to love on all of
Yes.
us. So you've just now increased your community. So I am so thankful. I'm so grateful for your message, for your strength, for your resilience, and for letting us take a walk through your heal her journey.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
You got it. Danielle, hang out for a second. Hey, everybody, was that not a powerful and blessed message? I'm telling you, I felt the words that Danielle was sharing, and I hope this episode is enough to get the light bulb moment going off to say, wait a second, where are the areas in my mind that I need to heal from? I don't want to have a psychotic break. I don't want to burn out. I don't want to spiral out of control. But what areas of my mind do I need to support more? Is it through saying no? Is it through setting some boundaries, getting some non-negotiable self-care time, right? That's always a plus. So whatever it is, make certain that you put it at the forefront of your brain so that you can continue on your heal her journey. All right, until next time, I'll see you all back again on the Black Girl Heal Her series. Take care.